32 and still single. What a shame, Aunt Martha announced at Christmas. 6 months later, the Danish prince I'd been quietly dating proposed on national TV. The family WhatsApp group exploded when Crown Prince Frederik of Denmark dropped to one knee during the Nobel Prize ceremony, where I was receiving the award for economics. In front of kings, queens, and a global television audience, he held up a ring that belonged to his grandmother, Queen Margrethe. "Dr. Evelyn Park," he said, his voice carrying across the concert hall, "you've revolutionized how we understand global markets. Now, would you revolutionize my life by becoming my wife?" My phone, on silent in my clutch, was having a seizure. I knew without looking that the Park family WhatsApp group was experiencing a collective meltdown. But let me back up, because this moment was 3 years in the making, and my family had been present for exactly none of it. I'm Evelyn Park, MIT professor of economics, consultant to 3 governments, and according to my extended family, a tragic spinster who chose spreadsheets over spreading her legs. That lovely quote came from my cousin Jessica at last year's Thanksgiving, wine-drunk and bitter about her own divorce. The whole family had laughed. I'd excused myself to take a work call and cried in the bathroom. Career woman had become my family's favorite slur, spat with the same venom others reserved for actual criminals. Every achievement, my PhD at 26, youngest tenured professor at MIT, published books, was met with the same response. "But are you dating anyone? Men don't want women who make them feel small," my mother would sigh, despite being a successful lawyer herself, who'd somehow raised me to believe I could have it all. "You're intimidating," my sister Sarah would add, bouncing her 3rd baby while her husband played video games in the basement. Maybe tone down the whole genius thing? The Christmas before everything changed was peak humiliation. Aunt Martha, 3 sherries deep, had decided to make my singleness the dinner entertainment. 32 and still single. What a shame, she'd announced to the table of 40 relatives. I have a neighbor divorced, 2 kids, drinks a bit, but who doesn't? He likes smart girls. Well, not too smart. You understand. I'm actually seeing, I'd started. Don't lie to make yourself feel better, Uncle Richard had interrupted. We all know you're married to your work. Just admit you chose wrong. Maybe she's a lesbian, Cousin Michael had stage whispered, earning laughs. Maybe she's just too picky, my grandmother had added sadly. Not everyone can have Prince Charming, dear. I'd bitten my tongue so hard it bled. Because I was seeing someone. Had been for 6 months. But Frederik and I had agreed to keep it quiet while we figured out if what we had was real or just the fairy tale it seemed. We'd met at the World Economic Forum. I'd been presenting on cryptocurrency regulations. He'd been there advocating for climate policy. A spilled coffee, a shared laugh, and suddenly I was having dinner with a prince who wanted to talk about economic theory and renewable energy rather than my biological clock. You're brilliant, he'd said on our 3rd date, eyes lighting up as I explained my latest research. The way your mind works, it's captivating. No one in my family had ever called my intelligence captivating. Intimidating, off-putting, unmarketable, but never captivating. We'd kept it quiet by mutual agreement. He needed to know I wanted him, not his title. I needed to know he wanted me, not just an accomplished wife for political points. So for 2.5 years, we dated in secret. Weekends in Copenhagen under assumed names. Conferences where we'd accidentally end up at the same sessions. Encrypted messages and late-night video calls discussing everything from behavioral economics to our favorite episodes of The Great British Bake Off. My family, meanwhile, ramped up their campaign to fix me. There's a new app, my mother would say weekly, for professional women who've waited too long. My trainer's brother just got divorced, Sarah would offer. He's not much to look at, but beggars can't be choosers. Freeze your eggs, Aunt Martha advised at Easter. Then at least when you die alone, you can donate them to women who made better choices. The morning I won the Nobel Prize, my phone had been silent. No congratulations from family, just a message from my mother. Saw the news. Don't let it go to your head. Men don't like women who brag. Frederik had sent a jet. You should be with someone who celebrates you, he'd said. Now, standing on that stage in Stockholm, the Nobel medal heavy around my neck and Frederik on one knee before me, I had a choice. I could see the cameras, feel the world watching. This would change everything. No more secret weekends. No more privacy. No more pretending to be just another economist at conferences. But I looked at Frederik, who'd spent 3 years loving my mind first, my heart second, and never once suggested I should be less to make him feel like more. And the choice was easy. Yes, I said, my voice carrying clear and strong. The concert hall erupted. Royals who'd been trained from birth to maintain composure were on their feet applauding. The Nobel Committee was beaming. And somewhere, my family WhatsApp group was surely imploding. Frederick slipped the ring on my finger, a stunning emerald surrounded by diamonds, once worn by a queen who'd ruled in her own right, and kissed me in front of the world. I love you, Dr. Park, he whispered against my lips. Every brilliant, intimidating, unmarketable bit of you. Your Highness, I whispered back. I think you just made me extremely marketable. He laughed, and the photographers went wild. By the time we made it to the reception, my phone had over 1,000 notifications. The family WhatsApp group had gone through denial, anger, bargaining, and was currently stuck in hysteria. Mom, is this real? This can't be real. Aunt Martha, that's an actual crown prince? Sarah, how long have you been hiding this? Uncle Richard, this has to be a prank. Cousin Jessica, she's marrying royalty and I can't even get a text back? Grandmother, I told you all she was just picky. My granddaughter, a princess. I showed Frederick the messages. He scrolled through 3 years of poor Evelyn, so alone, and what a waste of a pretty face, and career women die bitter, with increasing anger. These people, he said carefully, are your family? Biologically. They've been cruel to you. For years. They thought they were helping. In their minds, a woman without a man is a failure, regardless of other achievements. Do you want to call them? I considered it. Part of me wanted to gloat, to rub their faces in how spectacularly wrong they'd been. But a larger part, the part that had spent 3 years being loved correctly, felt only pity. No, I decided. Let them watch the news like everyone else. The proposal was replayed globally. Nobel laureate wins prince's heart. From MIT to monarchy, a modern fairy tale. The professor who proved love and success aren't mutually exclusive. My favorite headline, Career Woman Lands Prince, Economists Unsurprised by Efficient Market Outcome. The family calls started immediately. I sent them all to voicemail. 3 months later, at our engagement party in Copenhagen, I finally faced them. Frederick had insisted on inviting my entire extended family. Kill them with kindness, he'd suggested. Or let them kill themselves with jealousy. Either works. They arrived like a delegation from a foreign land, overdressed and overwhelmed by the palace protocol. Aunt Martha had panic-bought a hat that looked like a tropical bird had died on her head. Sarah's husband had actually put on a suit. My mother wore the expression of someone trying to solve an impossible equation. Evelyn, she said, approaching me during cocktails. Darling, you look happy. I am happy. Why didn't you tell us? 3 years, the papers said. 3 years of lying. I never lied. I said I was seeing someone. You all just assumed I was making it up. But a prince, Aunt Martha interrupted, champagne already working its magic. How does a career woman land a prince? Frederick appeared at my elbow, timing impeccable as always. By being extraordinary, he said smoothly. I pursued her, by the way. Quite desperately. She made me work for it. You pursued her? Sarah's husband looked skeptical. But she's, brilliant, accomplished, beautiful. Yes, I noticed. Frederick's smile had edges. I was particularly drawn to her intelligence. Do you know how rare it is to find someone who can discuss both economic policy and Byzantine art history? She makes every conversation an adventure. But career women, Uncle Richard started, are apparently exactly what princes want, I interrupted. Who knew? The dinner was exquisite torture. My family, seated among European nobility and intellectual luminaries, tried desperately to reframe their narrative. Suddenly, I'd always been the special one, and they'd always known I'd do something extraordinary. We were just worried, my mother explained to the Danish Prime Minister. So much pressure on young women to have it all. Indeed, the Prime Minister replied coolly. Thank goodness Evelyn ignored that pressure and simply achieved it all instead. Frederick's family, meanwhile, was everything mine wasn't. His mother, the Queen, cornered me after dessert. 3 years of secret dating, she said thoughtfully. That showed remarkable discretion. We wanted to be sure it was real. And is it? Real? The realest thing in my life. She smiled. Good. Frederick needs someone who sees him as a man, not just a crown. And the country needs someone who understands that being royal is about service, not status. Your work on income inequality, we've been following it. Impressive. Thank you, Your Majesty. Call me Margreta. We're going to be family. Real family, not whatever that was at dinner. She'd noticed. Of course she had. They mean well, I said weakly. No, they don't. They mean to make themselves feel better by making you feel worse. That's not family, Evelyn. That's just shared DNA having bad behavior. The engagement party ended with my relatives taking approximately 1 million photos for social media. Our princess, they captioned them, as if they hadn't spent years calling me our cautionary tale. Later, in our private apartment, Frederick found me on the balcony overlooking Copenhagen. Regrets? He asked, wrapping his arms around me from behind. About you? Never. About introducing you to my gene pool? Slightly. He laughed. They're quite something. Your Aunt Martha asked if I had any single brothers for her daughter. Of course she did. I told her my brother was only interested in women with advanced degrees and their own Nobel Prizes. Frederick, what? It's true. He was quite taken with you. Asked if you had any sisters. I do have a sister. Yes, I met Sarah. No offense, but she seems to have had her spirit surgically removed. I turned in his arms. Is this what it's going to be like? My awful family popping up like whack-a-moles, trying to cash in on royal connection. Probably, he said honestly. But here's the thing, they can't touch us. Not really. Your worth was never determined by their validation, and it certainly isn't now. They'll dine out on this forever. Our cousin, the princess. Let them. While they're talking about knowing you, you'll be busy actually being you. The woman who won a Nobel Prize. Who's revolutionizing economic theory. Who makes me laugh until I can't breathe, and then explains why comedy is actually about subverted expectations and economic principles. You're making fun of me. I'm madly in love with you. There's a difference. We were married the following spring. A royal wedding that made headlines worldwide, but more importantly, a union of equals. My family attended, of course, seated prominently enough to satisfy their social media needs, but far enough away that I didn't have to hear Aunt Martha's running commentary. My favorite moment, as I walked down the aisle of Copenhagen Cathedral, past heads of state and intellectual leaders, past my family in their ridiculous hats trying to look like they belonged, I heard one clear comment from the physicist sitting behind Uncle Richard. That's Dr. Park. Her work on behavioral economics is groundbreaking. Frederick's lucky to have her. Career woman had been their favorite insult. As if career and woman were incompatible, as if achievement and love were mutually exclusive, as if I had to choose between my brain and my heart. In the end, I chose both. And I got a prince who loved me not despite my career, but because of it, who saw my ambition as attractive, my intelligence as sexy, my independence as strength. The family WhatsApp group still exists. They share photos from the wedding, articles about their princess, and constantly hint about royal visit opportunities. I've muted it permanently. Because real family, the kind you choose, the kind that celebrates your victories and supports your struggles, doesn't live in a WhatsApp group built on blood and obligation. It lives in a palace in Copenhagen, where a prince makes me coffee while I grade papers, where a queen discusses economic policy over breakfast, where being a career woman isn't an insult but an inspiration. Aunt Martha was right about one thing at that awful Christmas dinner. Not everyone can have Prince Charming. But sometimes, if you ignore the voices telling you to be less, if you refuse to shrink yourself to fit others' expectations, if you insist on being gloriously, unapologetically yourself. Sometimes Prince Charming has a PhD in environmental science and thinks your Nobel Prize is the sexiest thing he's ever seen. And that's not a fairy tale. That's just efficient market outcomes in action. Retriclaude can make mistakes. Please double-check responses. Thanks for watching. See you again in the next video. Stay stunned.